author of the brand new book, The MAGA Doctrine, The Only Ideas That Will Win the Future. And thankfully, warriors like Charlie Kirk are going to help us win the future. Charlie, it's great having you back on the show. How have you been?
It's quite an honor, Mike. Thanks so much. It's great to be here, and thanks for taking the time on this busy news day. I really appreciate it.
Well, sure, a lot going on, but you're part of it. Let's talk. If you don't mind, can we start with CPAC? You gave a rousing speech. I was sick in the hotel room with the flu, ironically, so I never even got inside the door, but it was revealed that somebody tested positive for coronavirus who attended CPAC. Of course, right away, the concern is, were other people exposed? Was the president exposed? Hey, Charlie Kirk, you're an important guy. Were you exposed? I guess the debate now is whether or not this person should be identified. He or she was identified, evidently, to Senator Ted Cruz, among others, because this person had contact, shook hands with Senator Cruz. So Senator Cruz is going to sort of self-quarantine for a week. Do you want to weigh in on this? I mean, I don't even know where I understand.
Happy to.
Go ahead.
From what I understand and the information I've been provided, I did not meet this person. I was in and out at CPAC, kind of like a ghost. I did some media. I was there and spoke, but, God works in mysterious ways, so it ended up working out. I was regretful I couldn't stay at CPAC longer, but I guess everything works out for a reason, right? And I just want to say Matt Schlapp and all them, they do great work, and my thoughts go out to them. I know it's a tough situation they're dealing with right now.
Very difficult situation, because, of course, you got the privacy concerns of people who don't want to be identified if they test positive. On the other hand, you got a public health concern. There, what was it, 14,000 people, 18,000 people at CPAC? Mm-hmm. I'm sure a lot of people there want to know if they had any contact with this person. Is that a legitimate? Is that legitimate concern?
From what I understand, I mean, I don't know all the specifics, but from what I understand, this person was, obviously, if they met Ted Cruz and Paul Gosar, it's safe to assume that they were backstage more than they were in the general area. But look, I want to say this, Mike. I try to operate from an anti-panic perspective. I think most panic is psychological. Now, I'm not saying that it's all overblown. Not my position, but I don't think that we should feed into I think the over hysteria around this. And it's a difficult situation. It's something we haven't dealt with in a long time. As a country to have something like this, but all things being equal, I think this will eventually hit a curve where it kind of just flattens out, and hopefully we get some return to normal. But nope, I have not been exposed, and I'm using hand sanitizer every 30 seconds and being very careful.
Don't shake anybody's hand. All right. Just elbow bumps. I never thought I'd ever say this, but I'm following the Queen of England's advice. Keep calm and carry on. So we got to have a delicate balance. Let's get down to business here for a minute, because have you had a chance, or do you have any interest in watching the Hillary documentary on Hulu?
No, that's not exactly must-see television for me, but I've seen bits and pieces of it and clips. Bill looks horrible, by the way.
Oh, boy, I said the same thing. He does not look good, and but Charlie, and it killed me to watch it, because I thought, well, everybody's talking about it. She's a polarizing figure that, is arguably one of the most famous people, in the world in terms of the political arena. And, I was struck by how much they project, meaning the Democrats, and complain about things that they are doing to this day. In fact, they talked about the impeachment of Bill Clinton, and they deal with this a lot. She talks about the betrayal, his betrayal. He owns it and says it was awful what I did and everything. And then his aides, you got people like Paul Begala and others saying, well, it was just terrible the way they tried to politicize an impeachment and take him down using impeachment, because I couldn't believe it. I mean, it's like deja vu all over again. They complained and whined about things that they're doing now to Republicans, including, I might add, politicizing coronavirus and trying to use that now as a weapon to try to end the Trump administration.
Yeah, no doubt. And look, you've seen, and I have not seen the documentary, but the same people that have been cheerleading for the Trump impeachment were the ones protesting the impeachment back in the 90s, and there were actually real criminal referrals against Bill Clinton, real criminal referrals, no such criminal referrals against President Trump. And look, I tend to, I wasn't, really in politics. Obviously, I was 5 or 6 years old during the Clinton impeachment. But, looking back, you can make arguments both ways whether or not impeachment should have been used. I think it was perfectly fair to, at the very least, censure him back there. But this impeachment against Donald Trump has been totally outrageous. It's over now, thankfully. And we're on to the next hysteria, the next thing that the media wants us to focus on, and they want us to, I guess, distract from the successes of the Trump administration. And there are so many, Mike. It's just unbelievable.
Oh man!
It's overwhelming almost.
We send out a list. We invite people to on my My Pillow text line 800-655-Mike. If you text us the keyword Trump, we send back most or many of Trump's accomplishments. It's pages long. I mean, over and over again, and they know it. And when you write about the MAGA doctrine, and I want to get to that in just a moment, but let's face it. One of the other takeaways from the Hillary documentary is they got to the point where Hillary was campaigning directly against Trump, and they all shrugged their shoulders and scratched their heads, and they said, there's just no way to compete with him. There's no way to compete with what they called his theatricality. There's no way to match his rhetoric. They really thought that when he went after her, it would backfire, and to their dismay and to their shock, not only did Americans appreciate his straightforward approach, the media did too.
No, that's exactly right. And so it's incredible to see that a billionaire businessman from New York with no real political experience has been able to get so much done for our country. And the question everyone should ask themselves is why? Why is it that a guy that has no prior experience in this industry be able to get 210 circuit court judges, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, Soleimani, and Baghdadi dead, Embassy to Jerusalem, Golan Heights recognized, we're finally energy independent, best economy in American history, despite what the media propagandists are trying to do, lowest ever Black, Latino, disabled, Asian American unemployment, lowest youth unemployment in 60 years, lowest female unemployment in 50 years. How is this possible? Well, it's because he has his entire governing philosophy, what I write about in the MAGA Doctrine, and we've been overwhelmed by the support, Mike. It's been unbelievable. We've been number one. We've been the number one book in the country for the last week. I couldn't have imagined it, truly. And thank
Congratulations.
You for giving me the opportunity.
No,
thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about it. But
sure.
what I think is one of the most unfounded and unfair criticism against Donald Trump is when people say, well, he has no governing philosophy. He has no essentially baseline of what he's doing. He's an unguided missile. He is,
right.
And I find that to be preposterous. And I wrote the MAGA Doctrine mostly to try to articulate why he believes what he believes, what he is doing, why he is doing it, and how he's delivering results for our country so effectively.
Well, and it's important because, as you point out in the book, and the principles of the MAGA doctrine, these are principles that underlie what you call Trump republicanism. And I want to see if you'll make that distinction for us. Charlie Kirk is our guest. His new book, The MAGA Doctrine, The Only Ideas That Will Win the Future. To establishment Republican types, some, not many, but some, the never Trumpers I'm thinking of, they are mortified by what you and I call Trump republicanism. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that distinction between the country club republicanism of Mitt Romney and the kind of republicanism that President Trump has introduced to the world?
Yeah, I talk about it in my book, and I talked about it at CPAC, and I got a lot of feedback from the media because I encourage the crowd to boo Mitt Romney. I don't want him in our party. He does not represent what conservatism should be. I want a conservative movement that represents people that shower before work and after work, that represents working class Americans, that represents union members, carpenters, pipe fitters, AV, people that work in audiovisual, electricians, people that are police officers and firefighters. The country class elitist George Romney, Mitt Romney, Rockefeller Republican, party is dead for good reason, which is adventurous foreign policy into endless wars in Afghanistan and Iraq that bankrupt our country with nothing to show for it. That kind of neoconservative nonsense. And that does not mean you have to be a dovish foreign policy. I am not in that way at all, and President Trump isn't either. Strong, decisive, tactical, and agile strikes against American enemies are essential for our security. But this nation-building, bridge-building, school-building nonsense that we've been doing in the Middle East to try to spread liberty to a region that doesn't want it is outrageous. And I think President Trump has pushed back against that effectively. There are so many instances, especially on immigration and trade, where President Trump has upended the status quo. If we had a country club Republican as president right now, they would not be calling China out for their lying, their deceit, and their malpractice against the American people. If we had a country club Republican as president, they wouldn't be addressing immigration, both legal and illegal immigration, and the crisis that's happening in our country. And so, look, I don't want to go back to that way. I think that President Trump has redefined the Republican Party for good. We must demand that out of our leaders now. It's the best of the Tea Party movement. It's the best out of this new blend of populism, and it's the best out of Reagan conservatism all into one. And I kind of talk about it's the new three-legged stool. You know, Ronald Reagan had the three-legged stool of the 1980s, a free market capitalism, strong foreign policy, and social conservatism. We got a new three-legged stool. It's similar but different, and especially on the issues of immigration and trade and foreign policy, it's different in the sense that we're no longer going to go the way of these endless, reckless foreign wars. We're going to upend the conventional wisdom on trade for the better, and we're also going to have stricter immigration policies.
Charlie, Kirk, I admire you and Turning Point very, very much. I hope everybody gets the book, The MAGA Doctrine, The Only Ideas That Will Win the Future. Congratulations on the success of the book and everything you've done. Your story, of course, is so inspirational to young people who don't think they can make a difference, and you have, and you will continue to do so. And like I said, we honor you and admire you greatly. Keep fighting the good fight, Charlie.
Thank you, my friend. See you soon. Thanks.
Great having you on the program. Charlie Kirk, again, this book, real good read, The MAGA Doctrine, The Only Ideas That Will Win the Future.